I saw this on FXV discussion and I thought it's actually a very good discussion to have. It's something that's been on my mind a lot lately, considering the fact we're in a bit of a lull right now. Lulls are natural in Final Fantasy XIV's content release cycle. It's almost like the game is designed to, like, to know that players will probably just taper off in between major content patches, right? This is something that I only got used to after years and years of playing this game. But this is going into some things about that. Let's pull it up. Okay, it says, so this is from Useless Reddit ID. Opinion post. Endwalker is the last expansion where FF14's formula works without significant changes to it. I swear this is not an attempt at doom posting, but I wanted to share some opinions I have about the game and maybe spark some discussion. I think FF14 is hitting a point where it can no longer sustain its content release formula. Every single expansion must include, for example, 10 new levels for players to level up through in battle content and crafting content, 2 to 5 new abilities that have to be earned in that 10 level gap, plus one that has to be for the max level ability, like, you know, level 90 big exciting ability, with little to no regard to how the job plays on lower level. At the same time, every single job has to stay in the limits of around 25 to 35 actions to neatly fit onto the player hotbar, so abilities get pruned or consolidated. And the usual batch, actually, before I move on, yesterday in the stream, I had somebody telling me that they played White Mage during Heaven's Ward, and they said it had way more buttons than it has now. And could even have some buttons that were taken over from Summoner. Is that true? Was it like role actions that were shared? Anyway, I was thinking about that a good bit because now White Mage, I love playing White Mage, don't get me wrong, it's one of my favorite jobs, but there's not a lot of buttons, there's not a lot that you're doing, not a lot of different things that you're pressing. The usual batch of initial release and post-release content, an exact amount of raids, dungeons, and exploration zone, etc., which is true, though I don't know how, actually I don't know how true that is, because that has shifted over the years. If you look at Stormblood, we definitely got more dungeons, more trials, and more to the exploration zone than we got in Shadowbringers, or we don't really know yet what it's gonna be like for Endwalker, but we can probably assume it'll be following the Shadowbringers model. Yeah. Hold up. Yeah, I agree. White Mage does need another DPS button. I do agree with that. And also, they have to also add a new job or two that must draw players in to play them or at least try them out. Now, the other day, we talked about, there was an interview where Yoshi P was talking about how they're thinking about adding new jobs, and Yoshi P said something like, oh, I feel like we're reaching a point where we can't always be adding the classic Final Fantasy jobs, so we're gonna have to think of brand new jobs and brand new concepts. So the way that he was talking about it made me feel like for them, yeah, obviously coming up with a concept for a new job that's gonna fit into how all the other jobs work, that has its own difficulty, but it seems like not something that they are too bothered by. They seem pretty hell-bent on continuing to add new jobs with every expansion for the foreseeable future. So I don't think, like, this is happening. This is definitely happening. Even though we have, what, 19 jobs already? 20 if you count Blue Mage. So anyways, moving along here. New content is popular because it is new. The new content has the novelty to it, while a lot of the old content is supposed to be supplemented by duty roulette bonuses. Every new expansion is essentially a soft reset where old ideas get a new coat of paint. And well, what I would say here is that, and this is something that a lot of people who came from World of Warcraft have said about Final Fantasy XIV, one of the main things that a lot of those people have noticed coming in is that there is a ton of replayability to the old content in to a much bigger extent than you might see in World of Warcraft. Because of the level sync system, because of people's tendency to go back and do the old raids, do the old content. So, I mean, I'm thinking right now about Eureka, which that was Stormblood content. Eureka is Stormblood content, and yet there is so many people still doing Eureka right now. There are so many people doing Baldesion Arsenal right now that I'm in a Discord server that organizes runs for Baldesion Arsenal, which is a 56-man raid within Eureka, Stormblood content. And whenever they post recruitments to like signups to fill the raid of 56 people, these signups fill up so fast, the raids fill up so fast, they still have to put people on waiting lists for this shit. And they're doing these runs all the time, like several every week. And people just keep going back and doing it over and over again. So I think that's really good. You could probably say the same for a lot of the stuff that we got from Baja, but I haven't played a lot of Baja myself since Shadowbringer, so I don't know. Maybe some people in the chat can tell me what it's like to do Baja content now, like the raids now. I'm sure that there's people doing DR Savage. I don't know about DR Normal though. Anyway, I'm getting way off track here. My point was, we have very replayable old content in this game. There's a fair bit of it. The problem here is that as time goes on and new expansions get released following the same formula, too much of the game's content becomes shelved while newer content becomes rarer by a large margin. So I'll just keep reading before we get into this, because when I first read this, I didn't quite understand what he was saying, but we'll get to it. To put this into perspective, in Heavensward, about 40% of the game's content was in the actual endgame, and 60% was Realm Reborn. This is an estimate, not an accurate number. With each expansion, that discrepancy becomes larger and larger in favor of old content, for obvious reasons. In other words, you wouldn't feel that there's an inherent issue with how the game tackles its outdated duties earlier in the game's lifespan. Now that makes sense to me. Obviously, the more expansions you get, the more of the content that the game has to offer you is going to be considered that old content. And the new content is always going to be a smaller sliver of content, because that's the nature of time. That's how time works. As a result, several problems arise though. The players end up not using their shiny new kit that is balanced and works at max level in the majority of the game. I think this is a very good point, and it's something that's probably not talked about enough, because I just went on about how great Eureka is. You know, Baja, you can still do a ton of leveling through. You can maybe do DR Savage, just like all this stuff that the game has given us to keep us busy. Even like, you know, old relic farms. For all that, or like literally any old dungeon, any old trial, any old raid from previous expansion, you are getting synced down, and you're not able to use your brand new kit from Endwalker, like all your exciting new abilities and like the full scope of what your job has to offer. It's pretty much taken away from you from so much of what you might be doing to keep yourself occupied. Like, I'm doing Palace of the Dead right now. I love doing Palace of the Dead, but I'm synced down to level 60 for that. So I think it's a very good point. What is the point of getting that sweet and cool looking Communio or Numa if in the end that ability gets taken away as soon as the game takes away even one level off of you? So, yeah, I agree with this 100%. 100%. In a lot of cases, the lower you go, the less coherent a job's design becomes, and more often than not, less fun. As example, Reaper. Below level 70, its kit is so bare bones, it's kind of amazing, actually. It may put one to sleep due to its absent design. Conversely, at level 90, it feels like one of the most active jobs out there due to Enshroud. Yeah, I mean, it does feel incredibly awkward to be synced down and your job just the job that you end up playing for that does not feel like the job that you fell in love with, the job that you want to get the most out of. Like, obviously as a Reaper, you want to, Enshroud is essential to the identity of that job. And with every new expansion, there's going to be some new ability that like feels iconic, like something you gotta have. Like I don't really want to play Summoner in Palace of the Dead because I can't summon Bahamut in there. And so to me, it doesn't even feel like Summoner. It's just not as fun at all. It's very easy for parts of the game to die if they're not a part of the duty roulette system. Who runs Delubrum Regine normal without a pre-made right now, I wonder? That's actually the question I was going to ask a minute ago. That's how we got off talking about Bajja. And maybe people in the chat can tell me, what is it like for you right now to do Delubrum Regine normal? I'm sure there's plenty of people still trying to do it just to get through that story, though. I'm sure that, like, it's not impossible, but it's obviously it's not going to be as easy as it was at the end of Shadowbringers. I play Black Mage, is not too bad in 70+ content. What about 60+? I'm one of them, Zepla. I'm stuck there. I did DR normal with pugs and it was a nightmare. Why? What was so bad about it? Yeah, Black Mage leveling. Say no more. Say no more. You have to use Discord for DR. Well, you gotta use Discord for BA as well. Honestly, in the case of Baldessian Arsenal and maybe even also DR and DR Savage now, Discord carried this game so hard. Like, I love this game so much, but my God, I cannot imagine what that would have been like to try to organize this shit without Discord. Like, genuinely. It was a nightmare even with Discord to organize this shit. That's probably another topic. It's different. I haven't done Bajja/Zadnor since 5.5. I need one more field note for the mount and it refused to drop, so I just stopped. Oh my God. I don't think I would be able to stop if I had just one more field note, Dujam. I would not. If I had just one more, I would no life the game until I got it. Like, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Honestly, I don't like WoW's method of being low level and playing with people who are higher level and have more abilities. Why not? Because I think Elder Scrolls Online does the same thing. I think, where like you can just join a dungeon and not everyone's gonna be the same. I'm not sure though. I could be wrong on that. I could be super wrong on that. Okay. Prefer Eureka to Bajja? Same. Honestly, same. Okay, Issa may do the same, but you have a limited amount of abilities that you can use. True. You have like 5 buttons. So yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, where were we at? Here we are. So let's imagine that 5 years from now, Square Enix keeps the formula and we enter 8.0 and reach a level cap of 110. Keeping in mind that they need to keep the same release format that they established, they will need to spread out Jobs' abilities, like the last piece of butter on dry bread. This will reflect negatively on the leveling process in general if gaps between getting abilities is too huge, as well as willingness to participate in synced, outdated content. I mean, making people willing to participate in outdated content, it's really just a matter of incentivizing people to do it. Because there's so much stuff that I feel this game could give players as prizes and rewards. There's so much unexplored territory in that we're just not seeing at all. Like maybe different kind of dyes that you can unlock. That's something I say all the time. Maybe I'm just thinking here. I had a really cursed idea. This is a horrible idea. This is a really bad idea. But what if, you know, in some games, you could unlock like a spray, like, you know, like a little graffiti spray that you spray on a wall, but it'll go away after like a minute or something. But that's a horrible idea. That's such a bad idea. I wish I didn't say it because you'll ruin other people's experience. Like, it's such a bad, like, I'll just say, my point is, I wish they would be a little bit more creative with different things that people can unlock and give them so that they'll be motivated to do shit. That's all, okay. There would be total chaos, yeah. It's such a bad idea. But do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? I think more alliance raids should be mandatory. I'm so sick of Crystal Tower and Roulette. Yes. I hate Lab of Ancients the same. That's the one I probably hate the most. The other ones, the one I don't mind is Circus Tower. That one's not that bad. That one's not that bad. Oh, he talks about Crystal Tower in the next paragraph. He says, one fairly recent-ish example that comes to mind is the Augmented Laws Order Relic Step in Shadowbringers. For this step, not only did they have to farm fates in old zones to revitalize them for a brief period of time, but also run Crystal Tower raids to get the relic step done in the most reasonable way, as doing it in Baja was too unreliable for RNG drops. This prompted a negative response from players to the chosen approach for the relic step. Crystal Tower was probably the biggest offender. Not only is it already incentivized heavily and did not need the boost in players, because I do think that you have to clear Crystal Tower to progress through the main story quest, like you have to do that. But everyone running the raid was forced to play with a level 50 kit, which is notably less fun than max level. I believe this was the fastest relic step nerf I've ever seen. Yeah, poor went out for everybody who finished that relic step before they nerfed it. I was so glad that I'm a procrastinator at that point. But I really strongly agree with this point that was made here about being forced to play with a low-level kit, which is just not as fun as your full kit. And having so much stuff to do and past content is great and amazing, and I love that about Final Fantasy XIV. You know, it just means, you know, as the years go on, we will just always be accumulating more and more and more stuff to do from old content that we can go back and do, right? That's awesome. But level syncing feels really bad a lot of the time, and I don't know what the solution to that would even be. So, then the biggest issue here is probably the fact that the game offers so much content, but it becomes outdated and shelved once a new expansion launches, and in my opinion, it will soon become too much. I sincerely hope that Square Enix recognizes there is an issue and plans to tackle it one way or another in the future, and does not elect to do nothing about it, as it may lead players losing interest in the game. I mean, I'm thinking like, are you thinking of something like time walking? Would that be a solution? Right now we have Unreal Trials, where you can challenge an older content boss, but you'll be synced up to level 90, but we're talking Unreal Trials like on steroids, where we have a time walking event where we just focus like, it's Heaven's Word time walking week, and everything, every dungeon and every raid and every boss from Heaven's Word, you'll be synced up to level 90 for, and then you'll get like a special Heaven's Word currency for that. Like, I think that would be amazing. That would be an extremely exciting thing to do, but it also seems like it would be a tremendous development cost, because like, I'm pretty sure that it took them a while to develop just one Unreal Trial boss. Like, that takes a fair bit of development time for them. So to do that for everything, every trial, every dungeon, just for that week, dunno. I personally think that allowing players to keep their max level abilities in all content and just syncing stats is one of the better solutions. But there are a lot of opinions that exist on this topic in particular. Now, what he said here is something I agree with. I would love to be able to keep my full kit and sync stats and just do any content. But I also have a pretty strong feeling like that would be... Like, that if I asked Yoshi P that, he would say, this is impossible. He would just say, that's straight up impossible. We can't do it. Or like, we don't have the resources to do it. Or we'd have to commit like half of our time and money and resources to do that. That's the feeling that I have. But then again, I don't know anything about game development, especially for this game. But creative solutions might be needed as the game goes into its next decade. We have 10 years up ahead. And I really agree with the point that was made here about as time goes on, this problem will get bigger and bigger. It's a very, very good point made in this thread. TLDR, new expansions get released, old content becomes irrelevant outside of Duty Roulette. Not necessarily, not necessarily just Duty Roulette. You know, there's plenty of old content that's not in Duty Roulette, but you do have to sync down for it. Jobs kit becomes too spread out across levels, and you often have to be synced down, diminishing the importance of reaching max level in the first place. A really solid point. I'm leveling Black Mage a little bit right now on my alt. And on my alt, I'm trying to actually level everything from the start. Not use any skips for leveling or anything like that. And for Black Mage, I was just casually looking into what you need to know for leveling a Black Mage. Like, what's the different rotations? Okay. So these are Black Mage rotations for different levels. As posted on Balance Discord. This is the same, like if you ask anybody in the Balance Discord, this is the picture that you are going to get. So, sub 35, you have, basically you can see 35 to 59, 60 to 71, 72 to 89, 90. Your rotation will change quite a bit for every level tier that you're in. Same for AoE. You need to memorize all this as you're going through the game. My favorite part of the level difference as a samurai is that basically I have no AoE for a lot of content. Wait, what level does samurai get AoE? That's why, again, I was leveling as Lancer first on my alt, and then I swapped over to Bard because Lancer felt really bad to play because it doesn't get an AoE until level 47. So, I mean, maybe part of this problem is not necessarily or entirely that level syncing down feels bad, though it does. Maybe the bigger problem that we have is that it doesn't feel great to level up in a lot of jobs. That maybe you shouldn't have Enshroud at level 10, right? Or like if you're synced down to level 10, okay? But maybe throughout the leveling process, there could be different things that maybe you don't have at max level, abilities that you get throughout the leveling process that might be even temporary, like leveling skills that will help your job just feel better to play as you're progressing through the game. And will make it feel a little bit closer to the way that your job will actually feel at max level. Well, the game has more players than ever. The data on player count does not support the amount of doomsaying about fundamental issues. Here's the thing though, the more popular that a game gets, the more doomers they're gonna be, just statistically. But sometimes there's a kernel of truth in complaints that people have. Like, most people are not good at delivering feedback in a constructive way, But that doesn't mean they can't be listened to at all. Like, they might have something of value, even though they're delivering it in a maybe like toxic way.